Do I have to be an expert before I can teach something to my tribe? This is a fundamental question. And the short answer, spoiler alert, no. However, here's the deal. When you are getting started in a market, as many of you are, and you want to make a living in that market, you want to create a business, a niche style business for that marketplace, you may be starting out from scratch. You may be enthused, you may be curious, but you're by no means an expert. You're not one of the top 20 influencers in that market, and that's okay. Does that disqualify you from making money in that market? Absolutely not. In fact, what do we know? We know that the absolute experts in each market are not the people who make the most money out of any market that you care to mention. Why is that? Because to be in that top 1%, like the best of the best of the best, you have to absolutely dedicate everything to that. Whereas being a tastemaker, being a curator for your market, you are adding value to your team from day one. What do I mean by that? By identifying cool things in, say, kiteboarding. Even if you're just going through, a great positioning statement for anybody who's starting out in a niche is, their first blog post would be, I love kiteboarding. I think kiteboarding is fantastic. I can't wait to do it. I want to learn it. And I'm going to document my journey as I go through this. However, you might have a YouTube channel, you might have a podcast, you might do a blog, whatever it is. I don't care. Whatever the media is, I don't care. But the important point is you're never ever presenting yourself as an expert or someone you're not. In fact, that'll get you into a lot of trouble in most countries. So you definitely never ever ever want to represent yourself as an expert when you are not. But that doesn't make any difference at all into being able to make an impact in a market, because the most precious commodity that anybody has is time, right? Everybody is time challenged, and if you can save people time by being that source of information, like I've got, let me think. So in Hearthstone, the collectible card game, I listen to one podcast each week, The Angry Chicken, for those of you who are interested, and that keeps me absolutely up to date in that market of all the news. I can have a conversation with anybody about Hearthstone, and I'll be pretty up to date. And I'm a Patreon of that podcast. I pay them a couple of dollars a month or something because they do me a great service, keep me up to date, what's happening in the meta, all those sorts of things. I listen to the PS I Love You podcast to keep me up to date, and that podcast keeps me up to date on everything that's happening with PlayStation and games, because that's a hobby that's interesting to me. The Arse blog, I read the blog every day on Arsenal news. Very devastating and sad at the moment, but that I keep in touch that way. So they save me time because I can have a knowledgeable conversation about things that I love, but I'm not spending all the time. I've got to do stuff for you guys, right? So do you see where I'm going with that? Now, they don't have to be, their expertise comes from providing that service over a period of time. That's what you need to do. And you've got to start somewhere. And so you don't have to be an expert. You do have to be enthusiastic, though. You do have to want to love your market because you're going to spend some time in your marketplace. You think about the opposite of that. Do you really want to be involved in a business where you start and wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and you're out? And that may appeal to some people, that sort of fast follower approach, but I suspect most of you watching this are people who want to build a business, something they're going to love doing, something they're going to enjoy, something that doesn't seem like drudgery. And don't trust me, even in the most exciting market that you can ever think of, there will be drudgery moments, right? It happens, right? But ultimately, you want something that minimizes that, right? So that, to me, is the most important part of it, not your expertise, because you'll build up your expertise over time. As you get more involved in that market, as you help and you serve that market, that's crucial. Another story I often tell is, person, you've had chronic back pain all your life, right? It's just caused you all sorts of problems, and you were driving past and you noticed there was, at this new office complex, there was a new chiropractor in town. So you thought, okay, I'll give them a try. And you go in and they do a series of manipulations and boom, you are pain-free for the first time in 20 years. You are so excited. You can't thank them enough. It's the most exciting thing you've ever heard. And you go away, you start telling everybody about it, and somebody said to you, you know, I was speaking to that person. I know that chiropractor. Do you know you were their first ever client? Now, if they'd known beforehand they were chronic back pain for years and years and years, and if they knew they were going to be that chiropractor's first ever client, do you think they would have signed up? Would have you signed up? I wonder. And that, to me, is pretty darn interesting when you think about it. But here's the thing. After the event, because you solved their problem, they don't care whether you've been a chiropractor 50 years or 2 minutes. You solved their problem. And that, to me, is the other key element when you think about expertise.